Hey guys! Today I'm going to be talking to you about my first experience writing a book or being a part of a book. So let's get into it. The book is called Never Give Up, titled Never Give Up, and this particular um, one that I am sharing or holding is a special cover, actually. Um, it is one with a picture of me and Dick Vitale, who I collaborated with. Please excuse my voice today. I have a bit of a sinus infection that I'm getting over. Stories of grit, determination, tenacity. I love that word, and triumph. This was actually a collaboration. Dick Vitale is the first chapter in the book. Then there are 22 others, and then my chapter is chapter 24, uh, titled Magnify. I love that I got to be the final chapter in the book. And his chapter is the first chapter in the book, Never Give Up. So, number one, I want to talk about the experience of going through an agency, an all encompassing agency, which I loved. That was the best case scenario for me. I really wanted to leverage my first experience writing a book and being a part of a book. I knew I would write multiple books in my lifetime, and I wanted this one to be fun. And this opportunity came at just the right time. I wanted to make an investment that was going to be something that was an experience, and being connected to a celebrity. Dick Vitale is a newscaster. He's the one that says, "Awesome, baby." It's been around for years, and it was someone that was kind of different, but also we have similar energy, and also just his cancer story I was drawn to, and I really thought that that would be our connection, which I'll get into later. But this is the thing. I was really going back and forth between self-publishing or, what was the way that I wanted to go about my first book. And being involved in multiple things at the time, I was like, oh my gosh, I really don't want to do something that's going to really didn't have the margin to do something that was going to take all of my energy at the time, to be honest with you. And that's kind of writing for me. I really like to give myself to writing in a way that when you hear about people that just go away and just pour into it, like I really enjoy doing it in that way. And I'll be honest, this was not that. A ghostwriter was involved, an agency that did so much of it, and it was a hefty investment. And also, it was completely worth it to me because they did everything. They did the editing, they did the publishing, they did all the things. And there were all of these bonus experiences involved with this agency because they got us in the rooms. By us, I mean my husband and I, because we totally did this. If you listened to my podcast on We, Just Like Grace and Mercy, a couple episodes back, I'm going to use that as much as I possibly can. We wrote this book. We got into rooms with people that we never would have met before. We met musicians, we met artists, we met authors. We were in Nashville, we were at red carpet events. We got experiences that we never would have gotten to experience had we not gone through this particular journey with this particular agency, celebrity branding agency, which we loved. And even just like a couple of those included songwriter studio type things that were some of our favorite moments ever. And they had nothing to do, like, it was just because I was connected to this agency. So, number one, going through this agency, leveraging that, making that decision was huge for me because it created an experience that was all encompassing. The investment included everything. And I really liked that for me, for my first time. And doesn't mean I won't self-publish or go through some other way some other time. There were advantages and disadvantages to it, but for my first author experience, it was great. and I met some amazing people. I have a great girlfriend now that lives near New York. We had dinner together one time when I was there for Christmas, and it was just awesome. Our families know each other. Our daughters have spent time together. There's so many blessings to that. Second, and kind of a sub piece to that, is the ghostwriting experience. This is going to go in my future book that is a bucket list book. Like, you should have a ghostwriting experience, because you don't have to be an author or a great writer to have that. But you can get your story or a piece of your story out without being like this amazing writer, simply by having a ghostwriter. And that is an amazing experience. Give my eyes a little give my eyes a little break by taking my glasses off. Just by having a ghostwriter, that is amazing. Like, you can sit and talk with someone who can take your story, put it into writing. Again, everything has its advantages and disadvantages. There's no doubt about it. So this is where I really thought, when they came to me and were like, cancer story, these are things in common, I was like, yes, I've always wanted to write about the cancer story. I really thought that's where this was going. That's the first book that God ever brought to my attention and that I thought I was going to be writing about. No. So I was living in Lower Greenville, going on a walk, just had my headphones on, my earphones pieces in, and just went on a walk and was chit-chatting with my ghostwriter. And we just get to talking. She's like, just tell me about you. So she gives me some prompts. I'm chit-chatting. Before long, it's been 45 minutes. We have a few calls like that. And before, at some point, she's like, okay, listen, I got to be honest with you. I'm really drawn to your childhood, really drawn to these aspects of your never give up, overcoming part of this. I know you thought it was going to be about the cancer story, but I got to be honest with you, there's enough, along that storyline in the book. And I really think that you should lean into this other piece. Like, you as a woman, as a young girl, you know, growing, there's some unique pieces to your story that I think could add something to the book that's not there. Just growing up in this way, growing up, becoming a therapist, and having had trauma in your childhood, being a minority in your own family, and being, you know, a, a girl, a woman, like, the cancer thing is great. And also, there are these other pieces where you're still in relationship with your family, and you guys had hard times, but you overcame those things, and this and that. And I was like, really? So this is where I'm going to talk about parts. Okay. And maybe I'll do a separate episode on that, but I'm going to talk about this in parts, because there's so many parts about me that show up in this. And this is where a part of me was like, oh no, we're not allowed to talk about those things out loud. And where my therapist kind of says, nope, nope, that's the parts that say stick to the story. Those are not things that we are allowed to talk about, which is kind of odd, because growing up, I always heard people around me sharing stories about their childhood, and even stories about their, siblings or parents, and things that wouldn't put them in a good light, but that it was fine to say those things out loud. But I never felt the permission or the freedom to do that myself when it pertained to me. That was really, really bad, but that it was okay for others to do that, but not okay for me, which was kind of um, this confusing piece for parts of me that I've, worked on in my own kind of work. And so when I was talking this through with my ghostwriter, it's that part where you go, wait a minute. Like, I really love my family. I really don't want to dishonor them. And so kind of took it back to the drawing board, took it back to my board. You have your own, like, bubbly and confetti committee, like the people who you trust, the people who will check you on the decisions that you're making in life. And so we kind of worked through these things, and I was like really excited about this and started to move forward in this. And I started to come up with some drafts and just went like, what could this look like? So my ghostwriter, just put some drafts together. Of course, she's being paid to write up all kinds of drafts with different things that I'm just walking and talking. So easy for me. And she sends me some things, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like you're really putting this together great and making it seem so easy. So as that's happening, though, I feel both. I feel excited and like, oh my gosh, that feels really empowering and overcoming. And it is these parts of me that feel like we didn't give up. We kept going, and look where we've come. And then other parts that are feeling very shameful and very like, you're going to get in trouble. And so I always want to check myself if I feel like, those parts coming up, and not with people that are like going to just be like, no, you're fine. I just want you to be happy. Go ahead. And so my neutral people are like, there's Lean, who's very level headed. I mean, Lean is like, can look at things from all sides. And she's very good. She's like my best friend that is very emotionally mature. She doesn't spiral. She is very prayerful, very spiritually mature. And I can always go to her and just be like, hey, what are you thinking? And she will first be spiritually level headed and come to me from that way. And are we honoring God? Are we bringing glory to God? Are we pointing to Him? And then in this situation, Jace, I just prayed about it, and I was like, my daughter, who loves me and also loves all of my family members, and she's also very spiritually mature, emotionally mature, and just level headed, and is like, I don't want to be around the drama, and I don't want to like immediately if there's drama, I'm out. And I was like, hey, it's just a couple pages, literally a couple pages. Tell me if this feels if you read this and it feels like drama, or if you read this and it feels like a story, like a story that you can walk away from and feel light. And then my my friend slash assistant, who's really level headed, and my sister, and this and not just any sister, but the middle, the one who is like close to everyone, and who I feel like is the most like I can hold both. And I say that now, and I also feel like sometimes I need to step back and go, but should she? you know and and that at that time I prayed about this and really wanted to make sure I was making the right decision before I moved forward. So it was only a couple pages. Sent it out. I was like, yeah, everyone was like, no, it's totally fine. I'd, mind you, edited the crud out of this thing. Like, I'd sent it back no less than 7 times at this point. Rework, the most mild, in my opinion, that it could possibly be from where it had started. And then was like, hey, do you think this is okay? This is where I'm at. This is like maybe the final draft. What are you thinking? Does it feel drama? Does it feel unkind in any way? Does it feel, yeah, like that? No, absolutely not at all. It feels like really good. I love it. You know, got the go ahead, and with really encouraging words from everyone that I felt like was level headed, everyone that I felt like would, put up a fight for everyone involved, anyone mentioned, all that kind of thing. If I was not putting anyone in the right light or not, honoring anyone. So all of that said, we move forward. And the ghostwriting experience was lovely. I will say, I think that even after feeling like the final draft was great, I still had to just land on the fact that this is a chapter, and a teeny tiny short chapter at that. So let me just say, number 3, this is a glimpse of a glimpse of a glimpse of a glimpse of my life. Ghost written by someone else, editing my own writing. And while I was able to, yes, write, rewrite, edit, and do a lot of the work myself, it still had to be, it's not my own work. And so in that part of it, um, it's not my own work. And that's the truth. And where that is true, it's something that I'm proud of, and it's not something I'm going to be the most proud of in all the things that I write. And I'm grateful for people who edit and people who ghostwrite. Um, I also, I'm proud of the chapter. I'm grateful it's done. It looks so much easier, and it's so much more simplified than what was actually put into it. And because it had to meet a certain literal number of words, it feels and reads so curt and blunt and just so much more simplified than how I would tell the story, and leaves so much out. And that is unfortunate. So, 1, agency; 2, ghostwriting; 3, unfortunately short. And number 4, I didn't write having not written what I expected, it did not end the way I expected. And it changed my life. And that meant it shifted my relationships, even with all the work that I did, even with everything that I shared. Um, the the day that it was being published, I shared with people that were in the book, with my sister, with my teacher, and with my mom. And the response was overwhelmingly wonderful for those who were in it, except for there was an unfortunate response from my mom, and it was not kind, mind you. It was a reaction, and we all don't always have. I don't know if that would be what she would say today, or if she would. And I will say it was deleted, albeit not deleted on all my devices, but ultimately it was basically said that I was leveraging being a minority, and that everything that I said was dramatized or fabricated, that everything that I said was exaggerated or fabricated. And here I'm going to say parts of me and parts of her. One, I think I can only assume, because there was not a conversation around this, and we have not had a conversation since. And that was over a year ago. One, I think that I assume she read the book from the lens of her experience and not from the lens of my child sharing my child's experience of overcoming as a whole, and that she read her part and saw it from her part and what people would think of her part and what she assumed would be derived from that. And that was and what, I don't know. I can only assume. On my end, the parts of me that showed up in that response were one, um, shock. There was a part of me that was shocked and hurt, of course, um, because I'm both child and mom. So the child part was hurt. There was a mom in me, a mom part of me that was just kind of mothering, just like thinking we mother so differently. Like it just almost this, I have learned in my process to differentiate and just go, this is in the legacy of mothering, this is what was, and this is what we do differently, and that what would I do in this situation? And this is not in any way that I would ever words that I would ever say to my own child. And there's a difference here. And we can be grateful. We can be compassionate. We can show compassion and knowing there's a transition in the way of reactions and responses here. And there is a recreating of trauma. This is a moment. Um, and then there was another part of me that was almost relieved and actually felt this. You put it in print. You wrote out this actual truth that is actually what I feel that you have felt about me for so long that you've never said out loud. That you feel they're the younger parts of me all going, that's it. That's what I have always thought, that you think I exaggerate, that you think that I fabricate things, and that you think that anytime I say anything about being, that this is my experience that happens when I'm treated a certain way as a half Hispanic or as someone that's not like a white woman like you, that you think that I'm playing a minority card, that you see that you there's never been a time that you have empathized with that. I have felt that you think that, but you've never said it. And so there were all these parts of me that went, you finally said it. You finally said the truth about how you feel about me. And there's a relief in that, you know, and that you might have deleted it, but it doesn't delete on all devices. And I can still see it. I could still have that picture. I still know the truth of what initially came out. And then there are other parts of me that go, well, maybe she'll change her mind. You know, she deleted it for a reason. She didn't want other people to see that. And there are probably parts of her that love me. I don't know. I don't know. We've never had a conversation. The only conversation that happened after that was um, my dad had come to do some work at our property um, that ended up being very awkward, you know, and it didn't go the way that we thought. And I only remember, you know, just this identifying pieces of reading it and going, that, you know, we didn't even have a coffee table there, and just going, but you didn't live there at that time. And then him, you know, my dad just saying, I don't even know that person who wrote that. and feeling and saying that tracks. Not being mad, just feeling like that tracks. Like when my memories of the maybe few sentences involved in the lines that probably rose up anger um, in my mom or dad around the things that were written here. Not the parts. I mean, there's literally um, in the entire chapter of my writing, there is one potato. Let me see here. One front and back, two front and back, three front and back, and then a couple lines. And this is a half page, so not even 3 full pages. And all there in it, I write about other people. I write about becoming a therapist. I write about my teacher. Like, so there's just a little bit in all of that. My memories and the things that happened to me as a child mostly happened when all of the adults around me, there was substance abuse involved. There were other adults involved. There were other people, and even strangers in the room involved. There was depression involved. There were mental health issues going on. And when you have issues of substance abuse or continued substance abuse, there there is a disconnection in relationship. And I think that um, a disconnection in awareness and self-awareness. And for children who are not using substances, we remember things at times that sometimes the adults don't remember, and we don't experience things the same way. And also, then as I got into my teens, I was the one using substances right into adulthood. And that, some adults stop, some adults don't. And at some point, you create boundaries around that, or you choose not to. And ultimately, regardless of what's involved, trauma, substances, anger, growing into healthy communication, learning about boundaries, choosing to operate in healthy boundaries or not, and learning how to respond to situations, and going, I think about my own daughter and all my children, but I think about even, Jace, and a lot of the things I try to flip the script and think about some of the things that she walked through, and um, my a son who, like, just different children. And I think about even flipping it the other way, and how I have experienced my really proud moments where my mom shared her testimony and shared similar situations where she talked about things with when her mom and dad and siblings did things, and they're in relationship, but it was treated differently. And so there are parts of me that are like, yeah, I just feel like because of the attachment that did or did not exist, or was not created in a healthy way in being mothered as a baby by a 17-year-old, and those early years of development, maybe that's part of it. Um, or maybe the norms that were created throughout our lives. I'm not sure, but I do know that there are parts of me that feel like maybe I will just always feel like I'm going to be treated differently. I'm not going to have the same permissions that my siblings are going to have. I'm not going to have the same connection. I'm not going to have the same reaction or responses. I'm not going to get the same empathy. I'm not going to get the same um, grace, or, I don't know, the same mothering, the same um, view, that there seems to be a different lens. But I also think that maybe my siblings feel the same way. And that I think my mom, when in my own work of processing why there's this trauma that's recreated, I think that she feels that way in her own life. And that for whatever reason, there are a few lines in this that stirred some things up for her. And I am sorry about the any pain that caused. Of course, that wasn't my intention. And also, um, as I said, there was no conversation after that, except for one piece, which was I sent a video to my parents and just said, ultimately, I don't desire more disconnection from you. And also, I feel really proud of sharing my story. And I also don't desire to deny or diminish the truth about the things that I've overcome, that I truly believe can help others in their overcoming. And I believe that I'm called to share those things in a way that honors God and helps others. And I think I did that. And that's okay if we disagree. And I gave permission and said, with that, if that, you know, doesn't, if we disagree about that and you feel the need to not follow me on social media, it's okay. It's, I did not know that was going to turn into completely blocking in every way, and disconnection in every way. That's not what I communicated, and not what and also I'm, I'm okay with that. I feel that God uses everything, and that um, everybody gets to be where they are. And I think that until we can remove blame and shame, it's really hard to move forward in our healing. And I, both in the chapter that I wrote, as well as in my own work that I do, I don't want to blame or shame anyone. Mostly, I think, just as you and I and any of us can do, Revelations talks about we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimonies. And I can remember one time just driving to this party that a friend of mine, three friends of mine, were throwing this fun dinner that was like this celebration of the print of my book. So I have such great people that celebrate things for me. It was such an honor. So my sister and I were driving to Oklahoma City for this, and on our way back, um, she was watching a reel of this person that was just like talking about, like just straight up talking about a sibling or someone, and just like they're disconnected and had gone no contact or whatever, and just saying like, this is what it is and this is what they have done to me, and I just don't, like, that's just not healthy for me anymore. Like, I just don't, whatever. And all these comments and people just like sharing like, this is really helping me, like I've been, whatever. Like, it was just an empowering post in a way that was um, truthful, and also not like bashing, And my sis was just like, I think, like, you got to just let go. Like, it doesn't matter what you say. It's never gonna make her happy. Like, you're just gonna have to just like quit worrying about whether or not you can't, there's nothing you can, one of those things where it's going to make people mad anyway. So just share your truth. And that's what, she had just said, like, just, you have permission to share your truth. It's your life. And, um, and so it's a wonky thing. And that's the thing that I get the most questions about is like, how do I share my story without dishonoring people? And they, you know, there's this psychology meme that says there's like these parents that are standing at this person. It's like a sketch with this person's book signing. And it says, if we had known you were going to be such a great writer, we would have been better parents. And I don't think that it's like there's a quote that says, if you didn't want to be, I don't know, something like, I don't know. I don't think it's about, putting on a show. I just think that it's about the intent. It's about checking your heart and leaving people in the light and understanding that we're all human. I was a wild teenager, and I even shared that. I think I even said one of the lines that I said, the adults in my life didn't know how to handle me, and I didn't know either. All I knew was that I was unwanted. See, even that was that I felt unwanted is probably what I feel like. Even after my edits, things shifted. Anyway, I my intent was to say, like, the adults didn't know how to handle me, and I didn't know either. Like, I was a mess. I was full of hurt, and there was no one around that understood helping a teen how to cope and how to heal and how to walk through those hard things and what to do. And so I feel like, and as adults, it's the same thing, and we're only showing up in relationships at to the extent that we have matured and healed and developed, which is oftentimes from the developmental level of a, a preteen, which is why we need to continue to go to extensive therapy and be mavens and all the things. So all of that to say, as you are using your testimony, and you should share your journey, tell your story. Testimonies help us overcome. Just keep in mind that there's a wounded woman in you, and there's a royal warrior in you. And you want to tend to both, and you want to always be mindful of the intent of your heart. And I think ultimately, the intent of my heart was to align with Vicky's vision here, was to help others never give up, was just this, to add to the stories of grit, determination, tenacity, and triumph, and to share mine, and hopefully it helps someone else. So that's the truth about writing my first book. I hope it helps. If you have questions, let me know. And this is not the end of the story, nor is it my last book. And I will keep on writing. So get your pen. You should probably start writing too. Share your journey. All right. Thanks for listening.